Hey YouTube fam, welcome back to another strong and playful Vinyasa practice. I'm really looking forward to moving with you today. Thank you so much for being here. As always, it is a joy to be in this space. Before we start, as always, I want to mention that I do have an online yoga studio and membership site called The Kula. And in The Kula, I host or I upload at least 3 classes every single week, oftentimes more than that. And lots of content from some really great guest teachers as well. There's all sorts of classes in there. So yes, there's the spicy, intermediate, advanced practices, but there's also mellow flows and slow flows and restorative and yin and meditation and breath work and strength building and skills and inversions. There's so much in there, and you can filter out the library. It's a great space to come hang out, try it out. I'll put codes below, links below, so you can check it out. Also follow along on Instagram. I've got lots of in-person things coming up. So retreats and teacher trainings and workshops and immersions and new courses coming out, and just a lot going on in this little corner of the internet. So I'm gonna post the links below, and for now, thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and get started let's start in a seat. Big fan of starting in a seat. Close down the eyes. Take a deeper breath here. In through the nose. Out through the mouth. In through the nose, filling up. Pause at the top, sip in even a little bit more, and hang out in that space that's likely a little bit uncomfortable. The space, the madhya, the gap between the in and the out, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2. Big exhale, open mouth, let it go. Allow for the breath to return, long and even inhales and exhales, although now or at any point in practice, if you feel a stuckness in the energy of your breath, you are more than welcome to take some deep ins and open mouth outs as a way of moving energy through. But as we settle and as we land here and the pelvic bowl is heavy downwards, there's a weightiness downwards, can you also reach the crown of the head for the space above it? Get a little longer in the spine, shoulders roll back and down. And then drop the chin in towards the chest. And as you drop the chin in towards the chest, bring the hands to the base of the skull, interlaced, elbows pull in towards each other, and just start to kind of melt in on yourself, rounding through the back body a little bit. Tuck the tailbone up and in as if the elbows and the tops of the thighs could touch. Maybe they can, likely they can't. We're going to play with this opening up of the elbows wide, but as you do, drop the right elbow towards the floor and peel the left elbow open towards the ceiling as you bump the heart forward a little. And then continue to round through the back body as you pull the elbows back in and roll it open, then to the other side. So left elbow down, right elbow opens up. Curl it into the center. Open it up to the right. Curl it in through the center. Open it up to the left. Curl it in through the center, and we'll pause there. Keep the interlace of the hands, but as you come back through a neutral spine, press the heels of the palms up towards the ceiling, straightening out the arms. Pull the low ribs in so that this movement is isolated in the shoulders as you nudge the pinky edge of the hand back just a little bit more into space. And then from there, find a little bit of a pulse with the arms. Keep working for straight elbows. Heels of the palms press up towards the sky as you pulse forward and back, but keep the rib cage pulled in. Rib cage is stable here for 5, 4, 3, 2. On 1, let's release the interlace of the hand just for a moment. Cactus out the elbows, open up the heart, shoulders slide down the back body. And then shift your way forward into a tabletop position. So wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. A couple cycles of cat-cow here. Inhale to open the collarbones, lift tailbone, lift gaze. Exhale to round through the back body. Inhale to open up. Exhale to close it out. Just one more like this. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Come back to a neutral spine. We're going to keep the tabletop position, keep the toes untucked, meaning that the toenails are to the floor. And as you press into the tops of the feet, can you lift the knees to a hover above the floor and hold this space? Press the back of the heart a little bit higher. Think of squeezing the heels of the hands towards the toes and the toes towards the heels of the hands, but knees are really just to a hover above the floor. So knees lower down even more, but Back of the heart lifts between the shoulder blades a little bit as you hold here, just for one more cycle of breath. Big inhale. Slow exhale. Soften the knees back down to the floor. Kick the right leg long behind you. Right foot flexes out. We're going to start by swinging the right leg over to the right. Keep the right leg lifted. Bump the right toes even a little bit higher. Bring a little bit more weight into your right hand. And then soften the right foot all the way down to the floor and pull the hips back to the left heel. Round through the back body, shift right back forward, wrists under shoulders. Open the heart, pull the hips back. Round through the back body, shift it forward. Couple more times, pull it back, hips towards the left heel. Round through the back body, roll it forward. This time, hips to the left heel. Pause and hold there. Bring the gaze forward, inch the fingertips forward, and then see if you can play here with popping up onto fingertips. And then from there, maybe the right hand lifts and reaches forward. Maybe the left hand lifts and reaches forward. We've suddenly spiced this shape up quite a bit. Can you press into the ball of the left foot? Feel that engage the left glutes a little bit. Reach even a little bit further, straight through the elbows for 5, 4, 3, 2. Hands to the floor, soften into the stretch. Just let yourself release. So moving from effort to ease. Take an inhale and let it go. Walk the hands towards the right foot. So right foot is over to the right. Point the right toes up towards the ceiling as you do. You're welcome to hang out right here, or something I love to move in and out of is a bend in the right knee and a shift forward so that wrists make their way underneath the shoulders. We're in kind of a funky runner's lunge off to the right, and then pull the hips right back. Bend into the right knee, pull it forward, and then send it back. One more time, pull it forward, heart reaches. Straighten out through the right leg, pull it back, walk the hands back through center. Round through the back body, shift forward, and then let's lift the right foot, but keep it extended to the right. Swing the right leg back behind you. From here, tuck onto the left toes. Lift the left knee just to a hover, just an inch above the floor. Three-legged down dog, straighten out through the left leg, kick it up and back. Bend into the right knee and open up the hip, and now I just want you to take some really big circles with the right knee. So rolling out in one direction. Swap it out, roll it out in the other direction. Pull the right knee towards the left elbow. Right knee, left elbow, press the floor away. Falling star, left foot spins flat as you kick the right leg all the way through. Right foot could stay to a hover, or it could drop down towards the floor. But either way, I want you to think of dropping the right hip towards the right wrist, let it tap, and then drive the hips back up towards the ceiling. A couple more times. Right hip taps, drive it up. Right hip taps, and then back to the sky. This time right hip drops all the way down to the floor. We're gonna pivot to the left. Legs are in a straddle. Get tall through the spine. If this shape is already tight for you, sit up onto a block. And then just walk the hands forward. Lowering into your fold. We're not gonna be here for long, but hang out for a couple breaths in through the nose. Your choice, out slowly through the nose, or if you wanna move some energy through, you can always open the mouth and let it go. On an inhale, walk the hands back towards you. Keep the straddle shape. Fingertips placed between the thighs. Point out the toes. Lift the right foot to an inch above the floor. So much harder than it should be, but just go with me here. Right foot drops, left foot lifts. Left foot drops. Either you are alternating from side to side, or can you lift both feet and pulse for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold the last one at the top for a moment, and then let it go. Pivot back to the top of the mat, right hand plants, drive the hips up, circle the left fingertips up and over. And then as you bring left hand back down to the floor, kick the right toes up and back. Three-legged down dog. We're coming out the way that we came in, which means shift forward, left knee to the floor, three-legged tabletop. And then right knee drops next to the left knee. Little shift with the hips from side to side, roll it around a bit. And then we swap it out. Left leg kicks long behind you, flex out through the left toes. And swing the left leg over to the left side of the mat. Sorry to my plant, I need to do something about that. Little bit of a pulse up and down with the left foot to start. So just a lift and a lower. Bring a little bit more weight into your left hand. Grip fingertips to the floor, your fingers having a conversation with the mat. And then drop the left foot down to the mat. Right away, pull the hips back to the right heel. And then round through the back body, shift forward. Open the heart space, so think cat-cow in the spine as you also add in this element of forward and back. Round and shift forward. Open the heart, hips pull back. Couple more, round, shift forward. Open the heart space, hips to the right heel. Last one, round, shift forward. As you open through the heart, hips to right heel, pause and hold there. Maybe you pop up onto the fingertips, let the chest get a little bit heavier towards the floor, gazes forward. Welcome to stay here. Maybe left hand lifts from the floor. Maybe right hand lifts from the floor. Press into the inner arch of the left foot and into the ball of the right foot and hold here for 5. Straighten out through the elbows. Final 3, 2. Soften the hands to the mat. Let the heart sink down, forehead sink down here for a breath in the center. Feeling the length that's happening in the inner left thigh, your adductors, and of course opening the hip. So you're ready for it. You can start to walk the hands over towards the left foot, and as you do that, left toes are going to peel up from the mat to point up towards the sky. You can always have a bend in the left knee here, by the way. Welcome to stay here, or a couple of times bend into the left knee, shifting forward so that the wrists work their way under the shoulders, and then pull it right on back, hips to the right heel. Bend, shift forward, straighten out, pull it back. 2 more times, forward, and then send it back. Come back forward. And then pull the hips back to the right heel. And walk the hands back to the top of the mat. Ground into finger pads, into knuckle pads, round and shift forward. Lift the left foot back up towards the sky. Swing the left leg back behind you. And then lift the right knee just to a hover above the floor. Everything else stays the same. Hold the hover for just a moment. And then kick it up and back, 3-legged down dog. Bend into the left knee and open up the hip. Take some really big circles. You're drawing circles in the sky with the left kneecap. Roll it out. Switch direction of your circles. Eventually, left elbow comes across the body towards the right elbow. Fallen star, right foot spins flat, left leg steps off to the right. You could play with keeping left foot lifted if you want more spice. And then with me, tap the left hip to the floor, right fingertips point back, and drive it back up. Inhale, left hip taps. Exhale, drive it up. One more time, left hip drops. And lift it up. This time, left hip all the way to the floor. Keep the straddle shape as you rotate the toes to point up towards the ceiling, get tall through the spine. Always welcome to sit the hips up onto a block here and walk yourself forward. Finding any variation, any depth of the fold that feels available to you. Check in with the knees. If there's tension there, you might find just the slightest bend into the knees or root the heels into the floor to find some activation in the back line of the legs. And toes are pointed up towards the ceiling. Thigh bones are staying neutral rather than rotating inward. One more breath here. And then using an inhale, walk the hands back through center. Same as we did on the other side. Fingertips plant, point out the toes. You're either alternating side to side or you're lifting both feet and pulsing for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Hold the top for 5, 4, 3, 2, just for the fun of it, drop the heels down, shift weight into the hands, lift the hips, hold for 5, 4, 3. If you can also lift the toes and the heels from the floor here, by all means, try it out. Sink the hips to the floor. Left hand plants at the left hip as you drive the hips back high, fallen star. And then right hand to the floor, kick the left toes up and back, 3-legged down dog. Out the way that we came in, so right knee drops to the floor, 3-legged tabletop. Left knee drops to the floor, tabletop position. Big step forward with the hands, puppy pose. Hand step forward, melt the heart down. Gazes forward towards the thumbs. Here just for a couple breaths. Letting the heart be heavy, but the hips stay lifted and pulling back. Walk the hands back underneath the shoulders. Tuck onto the toes, downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet a couple times here. So you're bending into one knee, bending into the other knee, shifting hips around. And finding your way through neutral. Come onto the toes, take a big bend into the knees. As you exhale, step, walk, hop, or play. Feet make their way all the way to the top of the mat, landing in a forward fold. In breath, halfway lift, lengthen through the spine, pull the low ribs in. Out breath, fold, let it go. Inhale to rise, come all the way to stand, arms sweep up and over to the top. As you exhale, right back down, forward fold, Uttanasana. In breath, halfway lift. Out breath, plant the hands, step it back to your plank shape, pause. Bend into the elbows, lower halfway, chaturanga, knees can always drop if you need, we're holding here. Press to the top, plank pose. Bend into the knees, pull the heart back, pull the hips back, almost like you were gonna go to a child's pose. Your knees are hovering from the floor though. And as you lift the hips, let that start to wave up the spine that rolls you back to your plank shape. Bend into the elbows, lower halfway. Back to the top, high plank. Bend into the knees, pull the heart back, pull the hips back. As you lift the hips, let that roll you forward, plank pose. Bend and lower half. Plank pose to the top. Pull the heart back, pull the hips back, bend the knees. Lift the hips, ripple it forward, high plank. Couple more times, bend and lower half. Back to the top. Pull back. Ripple it forward, high plank. Last one, lower half. To the top. Pull it back. Lift the hips, wave it forward, pause. Lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes as you slide the hands out wide. Tenting out the fingertips so the palms are lifted, get strong into the glutes. Inhale, lift the heart, slide the shoulders together and down the back body. Exhale, releases you heart to earth. In breath, lift to the top. Out breath releases you back down. One more time, in breath, find the top. Exhale, release heart to earth. Slide the hands underneath the shoulders, tuck onto the toes, press to your plank pose, and then downward facing dog, send it back. Come onto toes, bend into knees, exhale carries the feet to the top of the mat, fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, move it through. Inhale, rise, come all the way to stand, arms sweep up and over. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. In breath, halfway lift. Out breath, plant the hands, crow pose if it's in your practice. Otherwise, stay in your fold or skip it. We're gonna meet in a down dog. So any variation of vinyasa you wanna flow through. Again, maybe you add this crow pose along the way or maybe not. But eventually, toes journey to the back of the mat. You might pull it through to an up dog this time, or you could come back down for those yummy oscillating cobras. Hips up and back, eventually we land. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Come back onto toes one last time, bend into knees. Exhale, carries the feet forward. In breath, halfway lift. Out breath, let it go. In breath, rise all the way to stand. As you exhale, fold Uttanasana, right back down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, take it back. Any variation of vinyasa, if you wanted to add that crow pose or an inversion along the way, you could. We meet up and back, downward facing dog. On an inhale, sweep the right toes high. As you exhale, curl the right knee to nose, pause and hold, round through the back body. Tap the right knee to the floor between the thumbs, and as you do, open up the heart space. Exhale, curl it in, right knee to nose. Kick the right toes up and back, bend the knee, open the hip. Option to roll it into your wild thing, right toes step behind you as you drive the hips high. Circle the right shoulder onto the back body. As you come back through, right knee towards right elbow. Let's all step the right foot all the way to the top of the mat. As soon as it lands, come all the way to stand. Pull the left knee into chest. You get there, hands interlace underneath the left thigh. Flex out the left toes. Just bend and straighten through the left leg a couple times. So as straight as you can find with the left leg. You're also inviting back of the right thigh into the space behind it. Fire up the right glutes. Keep the left leg extended, pause. Bring palms to touch with the heart, left toes lift even a little bit higher. On your exhale, crouching warrior, right knee bends as you lever the upper body forward and kick the left leg back in space. A strong bend into the right knee lowers you towards the floor. Take an inhale. Double bent leg lunge, left toe step back, left knee drops to a hover as you pull the shoulders back. Shoulders soften, back and down, tuck the tailbone down, sink even a little bit lower into the left knee. Soften the left knee all the way to the floor. A little bit of a balancing game here. We're going to play with lifting the right foot. Hover in that space, let it be wobbly. And then step your right foot now as far forward as you can and sink into that space. Really sink into that space. So feeling the length that's happening across the front line of the left hip. Sweep the arms up and over. As you exhale, cactus out the elbows and open up the heart. Shoulders slide down the back body. Hands frame out the right foot out in front of you. Extended pyramid pose. Lift the left knee, straighten through both legs. Maybe right toes even peel from the mat. We're going to take this shape all the way to our side plank as you rebend into the right knee, left hand plant. Sweep the right fingertips up and over. Possible that you pause and hang out in the twist, or you continue to the roll to the outside edge of the left foot and step the right foot back. Bump the hips up high. If you wanted to take a variation where you pull the right knee in towards chest and peace sign fingers find the right big toe, you could play with straightening out through the right leg. These are all just options. We're going to make our way to a down dog by unraveling this shape into a plank pose and moving it through a vinyasa. Any way you want to take it. We meet with the hips up and back, downward facing dog. On an inhale, sweep the left toes high. As you exhale, curl left knee to nose. Drop the left knee between the thumbs as you open up the heart. And then curl it right back in. Kick the left toes back, bend into the left knee, open the hip. Either hang out here or roll it open into your wild thing. Left toes could drop behind you as you send the hips up high. Imagine that I pressed the slow motion button. As you pull the left knee back into the chest, we're taking a big slow step all the way to the top of the mat. And then as soon as the left foot plants, come all the way to stand right knee into chest. Hands interlace underneath the right thigh. Flex out the right toes and bend and straighten. Crown of the head is reaching for the space above it. Back of left thigh is pressing into the space behind it. As you bend and straighten and find full extension that you can in your range with the right leg. And as you pull the right heel into the glutes, you're activating right hamstrings a bit. You can feel it on the back of the hands. Keep the right leg extended, pause. Palms to touch at the heart. Hang out in the space, let it be uncomfortable. Bend into the left knee as you lever towards your crouching warrior. So left knee has a strong bend into it. You're rooting left heel into the floor. Sinking a little bit lower down, but keeping right leg extended. Collarbones are reaching forward, they're broad. Double bent leg lunge, right toes step back, right knee to a hover. Pull the shoulders back on top of the hips. Tailbone tucks down. Sink even a little bit lower, right knee truly just to a hover above the floor. Now can you squeeze the feet towards each other? Feel the activation that brings in the legs. Soften the right knee all the way down. Play with lifting the left foot from the floor. A little bit of a balancing game here. Now can you step the left foot as far forward as you can, like really big step forward, and then just sink into that space. Length up the front line of the right hip. In breath, sweep the arms up and over. Straight through the elbows. As you exhale, cactus out the elbows and open up the heart, continuing that extension up the front line of the body. As hands make their way to the floor, frame out the left foot. Lift the right knee, extended pyramid pose. Option to ground left heel into the mat and peel left toes from the floor. Taking a journey all the way to our side plank on the right side. As you rebend into the left knee, right hand plants. We'll start with a twist. Peel the left fingertips open. You might hang out here. Or it's possible that you roll to the outside edge of the right foot. And either step the left foot back to stack on top of the right. And by the way, you can always modify this shape by keeping the left foot to the floor about halfway up the mat, or right knee to the floor. If you want to take another variation, maybe peace sign fingers reach for the left big toe. So you play with extending the left leg long to any variation, any level of straight. Keep bumping the hips up, press the floor away from you with the right hand. And we unravel into our plank pose, wrists underneath the shoulders. Your vinyasa. We meet eventually in a downward facing dog. Drop the knees to the floor, keep the toes tucked under, but sit back onto the heels. So getting a stretch in the bottoms of the feet, but also giving the wrists a little bit of a break. Let's interlace the fingers and circle out the wrists for a moment. And switch direction of your circles. And press the palms forward, round through the back body. Arms stay straight, heels of the hands up towards the sky as you lift. And release the interlace of the hands, cactus out the elbows, open the heart. Forward fold at the back of the mat. With or without the help of the hands, we release the back bend. Lift the knees from the floor, drive the heels to the mat, and then hips lift. Clasp opposite elbows here, find a bit of a sway side to side, dropping the weight of the head. We're going to play with a similar variation of our last sequence, but it is going to be different. So there'll be elements that are the same, it'll start the same, and then it'll be different, just so everyone knows where we are headed. Find your way neutral on an inhale, halfway lift. Big exhale, let it go. Walk it forward, downward facing dog. And on an inhale, sweep the right toes high. Exhale, curl it in, knee to nose. Tap the right knee to the floor between the thumbs. Curl it back in, and then kick it back, three-legged down dog. Bend the knee, open hip, option to roll it towards your wild thing, driving the hips up high. Any variation you want to take, any movement you add into the mix. Right foot is making its journey to the top of the mat. As soon as it lands, come all the way to stand. This time, left knee into the chest. Left peace sign fingers to the left big toe. Maybe you play with straightening out through the left leg. Pull the left arm bone back so it plugs into the shoulder socket, tall through the crown of the head. Take an in-breath. Whether your hand is on the big toe or you can have the hand to the knee, so either place is great. We're going to play with opening the left leg off to the left side of the mat. Keep the shoulders squared off forward. And then start to send the hips back in space as you bring the heart forward, working the spine towards parallel-ish with the mat. If at any point you need to let go of the connection you've got left hand to left leg, you can do that. We're all going to do that in a moment as we bring palms to the heart. Keep everything else the same. Let it be spicy if it's spicy. Swing the left leg all the way behind you, warrior three. So spine parallel to the floor, right leg is straight, left leg is straight. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, double bent leg lunge, right knee bends, left toe step back, left knee bends, shoulders stack on top of the hips. Pause, tuck the tailbone down, sink low. Soften the left knee all the way to the floor. This time we play with lifting the right foot. And we're going to open the right knee to the right. This is definitely a funky transition. Go with me here. Right knee to the right. And then step the right foot off to the right side of the mat and really sink into that space. You might even bring the right forearm to the top of the right thigh and extend the left fingertips up and over. Kind of a funky side angle pose, but you're now probably off of your mat. That's great. It's welcome. It's encouraged. As you come back up through center, straighten out through the right leg, just enough that you can shift weight back into the left. Right knee reaches forward. Step the right foot down and come all the way to your standing split. Left toe sweep high. If you want to take this opportunity to get upside down into handstand, you're welcome to do that as well. But if you're with me in standing split, you're rooting into the right heel, you're driving the left toes up to the sky. Take an inhale. Maybe hands hover for a moment, testing balance. We're all going to play with a hop back towards a three-legged down dog. If you wanted to play with adding on a handstand along the way, by all means, please do. But as much of a bend in the right knee as you need to plant the hands on the floor, shoulder width distance apart. We're working for straight arms as we shift some weight into the hands, and maybe it's a couple of hops off of the right foot, working towards catching the balance. Maybe not. Meaning maybe you don't catch the balance, but the point is that you're getting weight onto your hands. Eventually, the right toes will hop all the way to the back of the mat. Left toes are lifted, three-legged down dog. So next place we meet, whatever play you take along the way, three-legged down dog, left toes high. We're gonna scoop it all the way through to an upward facing dog. So forearms chase the mat, but as they do, it starts the momentum to pull you all the way through. Upward facing. Roll over the toes. Downward facing. Take an inhale here. And an exhale here. Okay, it's a fun one. Let's do it one more time and then we switch things up. On an inhale, sweep the left toes high. As you exhale, curl in left knee to nose. Tap the knee to the floor between the thumbs, open the heart. Curl it right back in. Kick it back, three-legged down dog, bend the knee, open hip. Option to stay or to roll it towards your wild thing. Driving the hips up in any other movement or variation you want to take. We're making a journey left foot all the way to the top of the mat. Take your time getting there. And as soon as it lands, pull the right knee into chest. Come all the way to stand. Right peace fingers to the right big toe or right hand to right knee. Give yourself what you need. Tall through the spine as you maybe start to play with extending the right leg long. As the right leg reaches long, pull the right arm bone back so it plugs into the shoulder socket. Stay tall through the spine. And then we start to play once you feel steady underneath the left foot here, your left toes having a conversation with the mat. We'll start to play with opening the right leg to the right. Let it be wobbly. Can fall out and come back in as you need. Start to send the hips back as you reach the heart forward, bringing the spine towards parallel with the floor. Eventually, we release the grip of the right toes. Hold there for a moment. And then swing the right leg all the way behind you, Virabhadrasana 3. Hips are squared off to the mat, shoulders are squared off to the mat, palms are to touch at the heart. Take an inhale. Exhale steps you back, right toe step back, double bent leg lunge, right knee to a hover. Shoulders navigate their way on top of the hips, tuck the tailbone down, pause. Maybe you sink even a little bit deeper into the shape. Soften the right knee all the way to the floor. Play one more time that balancing game of lifting the left foot. Again, this time opening the left hip to the left and stepping left foot off to the side of the mat. Left toes point out and sink into that space. Might bring the left thigh or forearm to the top of the left thigh and reach the right arm up and over, length down the right side body. I think this feels so good. Can you pull the low ribs in a little? All right, back through center, transferring weight back into the right knee. Lift the left foot. Left knee points forward. Either this is your entry into handstand or you're with me for stepping the left foot forward, kicking off the right toes, standing split. Get strong into the right glutes. Let that pull the right toes a little higher. You can play here with hovering the hands from the floor, testing your balance in that way, maybe holding onto the left ankle. Might even watch your foot, the navigation that it's having to keep you balanced here. There should be probably a little bit of movement happening throughout the foot. As you're ready, we hop back to a three-legged down dog, maybe with the option for some handstand hops along the way, hands shoulder width distance apart. Go for straight arms, press the floor away from you, bit of a round through the upper back. And it's possible that you work on finding balance in your handstand for a moment or not. Eventually, we land with the left foot back, the right toes high, three-legged down dog, and be in your playtime for as long as you would like along the way. And then scoop it through, upward facing dog. On your exhale, downward facing, roll over the toes, hips up and back. Big inhale, and let it go. Soften knees to the floor. Untuck the toes as you sit to the heels. Hands slide up the thighs, maybe a rub of the hands along the thighs, a little bit of sensation, physical touch to just remind you of how sweet it is to be in a body. Find a place where you can settle in stillness and close down the eyes. Empty the lungs completely, all the way to the bottom. Breathe in just halfway and pause. Breathe in all the way to the top and pause. Big exhale, let it go. 2 more times, breathe in halfway. Pause. Breathe in all the way. Pause. Open mouth, exhale, move it through. Last round, halfway in. Pause. All the way in. Pause. Open mouth, move it through. Breath returns to long and even inhales and exhales, but keep the eyes closed, keep yourself still just for a moment to feel the vibration happening in the body after moving prana, breath, energy through. And as you're ready, we'll softly open the eyes. You might bump the knees just slightly wider, maybe even not at all, but we're going for hip width distance apart for the feet and the knees. We're going to play with a little bit of a circling movement from side to side here into kind of a half camel pose. You can play with this with toes tucked or toes untucked, so you might try out both and see how it feels. But either way, we're going to start by swinging the right hand behind you to the right. As the fingertips plant, drive the hips up and over and reach the left fingertips to the space behind you. And then soften the hips to the floor and swap it out. Other side. As you drop the hips back down, circle over to the right. Right fingertips plant, drive the hips up and forward, reach left fingertips behind. Drop the hips to heels, circle to the left. Drive the hips up and over. Come back through center, hips to heels. As you get here, we'll cross over the ankles, bring the legs out into a straddle. We've been here before, but this time we're simply going to fold into it. So check that the toes are pointed up towards the ceiling. You might move the fleshy bits out from underneath you a little, and then walk the hands forward. This might be a small shift in your shape, or it might be a big shift in your shape. But move towards the places where you feel sensation. Sensation likely in the left inner thighs, in the hips, as you fold forward in the low back. If the sensation is in the knees, back out slightly. Take a slight bend into the knees and root the heels into the floor to fire up the back line of the legs and protect the knee joints a bit more. Let it be an inhale that walks you back through center. As you get to the top, bend into the knees, bottoms of the feet together. Hold on to the big toes as you reach tall through the crown of the head. And then exhale to fold, heart towards the heels. Elbows to the inner thighs, driving knees towards the floor. Inhale to the top. Knees stay bent, plant the feet to the floor. You may need to scoot forward onto the mat a little bit. Reach the fingertips forward and roll down to the back body. As you get there, one last back bend. I'm going to talk us into bridge. If you've got wheel in your practice or a block for supported bridge, you can go to those places as well. Hands down by the sides, ground into the heels. Lift the hips up towards the ceiling. Think of tractioning the heels towards the shoulder blades. Let that pull fire up the back line of the body a bit and elevate the hips a little bit higher. Take an inhale at the top. Lift the hips even a little bit more as you exhale. Take an inhale at the top. As you exhale, lower the hips back down to the mat. Pull the knees into chest. Drop the arms out to a T. And cross the right ankle over the left ankle. And then drop the knees to the right. Left shoulder blade is plugged into the mat. Inhale brings you back through center. Swap the cross of the ankles so that the left ankle is on top. And then drop the knees to the left. Right shoulder blade is plugged into the mat. Inhale rolls you back through center. Exhale carries you into Shavasana. So legs slide out long to the top of the mat. If there's any last movements that you'd like to round out, finish out your practice, any last wiggles that would feel good, moving energy through your tissues. And then as you get here, settle into stillness, into a place that you can really land. And I'll offer one last thing that is really subtle, but also not very optional. You can take it if it feels good. You can let it go if you're like, Nicole, you're weird. What are you doing? This is a really great little reminder to our nervous system that it's time to calm down. You can imagine the sensation of like rocking a baby. You're just going to find a little shimmy with the hips from side to side. You can use a little bit of a press into the heels, one heel and then the other heel, to just shimmy the hips side to side, a little bit of a rock, a little bit of a vibration, movement side to side. And it's a pretty quick cadence. Make it quick. Take a couple deep breaths. And then as you let it all go, this is my favorite part, settle into stillness and notice the vibration that's still happening in the body. Kind of like you can imagine if you're like stirring a cup of water and then you stop stirring, the water keeps moving for a little bit longer before it settles. Shavasana, corpse pose, a place of rest, a place of integration, place of pause, place of silence. Thank you for sharing your practice. I'm going to leave us in Shavasana so that you can be here for as long as you have space for. Stay for longer, make the journey out slow when you're ready to make the journey out. And I'll see you again in the next one. Thank you. Namaste.